Well, I've been asked plenty of times what to buy in terms of a property in Dubai, off plan or ready. Now, when you talk about ready properties, either you are a complete end user who's buying on mortgage, and then the off plan scenario is zilch, it's finished. But I would still lean towards off plan, especially in a scenario where a person is buying a house for himself or herself to live in, despite having another home. So, trying to move to a larger house. So in that scenario, I wouldn't go for a ready villa. I would go for an off-plan property. Now there is a maths to it. There are numbers to it. So in my experience, 80 to 85% people that I've come across buying a larger house belong to the business fraternity. They're entrepreneurs. Having said that, if you buy a ready property, okay, it's very, very difficult, literally impossible to find something vacant of your choice uh, in a desired community. And the old communities existing in Dubai are not the contemporary types in terms of the facade or the layouts and the amenities and the location, so on and so forth. If you're buying an off-plan villa, you're going to put down a 10% or top 20% deposit plus a 4% registration fee to the government. The first share investment in off-plan goes at 30% plus 4%. That's 34% in total. 70% in the further years. Now, if you buy something ready, you're investing 100% of your chunk. So supposedly you're buying a 1 million dirham property. You're going to invest 1 million. If the property is rented, from an investment perspective, the thumb rule is 5% rental yield. You're going to make 5% of that irrespective of anything going around. Your property price might not increase that much because in today's scenario, like 24 and 25, it's almost peaked. We don't know, we never know that what's the bottom of the market and what's the pinnacle of the market, but that's why I'm saying it's almost peaked. So probably there's more 10% juice. There is not 50% juice right now in the near future, like say probably 6 months or 1 year down the line. So 10% juice, 5% rental yield, sacrosanct, not going to change. Come to off plan, your exposure is 30% in a year, okay, 34% in a year, but the fees leave it aside. So 30% to the developer, 30% in a year. The upside to that, to the potential, given the scenario and the statistics existing in Dubai, the property ladder going up and up and up, probably I would say it's 20-25% upside within a couple of years. So 12 and a half and 12 and a half. Here, probably 10. Here, 12 and a half, 12 and a half. Exposure, 30%. Return on equity, almost 100. Here, 1 million. Return on equity, 10%. Return on investment, that's rent, 5%. Maximum 15. So, I mean, the numbers don't match. So off plan always is better. Secondly, the 70, because you've invested 30%, the 70% is remaining with you. Any businessman, you can ask, he rolls that money in the business, he or she rolls that money in business. They ought to make bare minimum 10 to 15%. It's usually higher, but 10 to 15%. So you're going to make money off that cash. So it's the offset. You take that pressure off for the next payment for next year. So on and so forth. So off-plan is far better in terms of investment, provided you're not an end user, provided you have a property or roof over your head, and it's your second property. Off-plan is always better because you get a choice. But even in that, developers matter. I always say developers matter, community matter. And the best developers, I'm very pro Emaar. So Emaar, number one, followed by obviously Dubai Holding, which has a bouquet, and then you have Nakhil, Maidan, Dubai Properties, Miras. So yeah, that's number two for me, followed by Damak, and then followed by Shoba and X, Y, and Z. So in that Tilal Al Ghaf, obviously I forgot the new big name, Tilal Al Ghaf. But for me, Emaar will always be number one because, as I always say, to be Emaar, you need to obviously build something, sustain it for like 20 years, and then try to compare yourself with Emaar. So anyone trying to compare themselves with Emaar, not going to happen so soon.